So just a quick FYI to everyone watching this video, if you really do love this series, there are about 2 more History of a Variant videos after this one, and I'm trying my best to make them DLC guns, because this one is a DLC one. And that gun I'm taking a look at is the real life history of the Royal Skull for the Sten in Call of Duty World War II, to tell you guys where the Royal Skull comes from in real life, and what is it based off of in real life, and all that stuff. So my name is Nick, and without further ado, let's get right into the video and tell you guys the history behind the Royal Skull in Call of Duty World War II and what the gun really is in real life. I can't talk about the Royal Skull until I talk about the gun it's based off of, or the variant it is based off of in Call of Duty World War II, and that's the Sten. And the Sten was manufactured by a lot of companies, but it was specifically designed by Reginald Shepard and Harold Turpin. Fun fact, the reason why the gun is called the Sten is because it's the first letter in the last name of Reginald Shepard's name, which is an S in the first letter of his last name, and then the first letter of the last name of Harold Turpin's name, and his last name's Turpin, the first letter is the T, and then N for Enfield, and that combines together to basically form Sten, which is where the iconic name for this gun comes from. This gun was in service from 1941 all the way to the 60s, but it was used past that time from some time. It saw service in these wars: World War II, Warsaw Uprising, Second Sino-Japanese War, Chinese Civil War, the Indonesian National Revolution, the Malayan Emergency War, the Korean War, the Mai Uprising, the Suez Crisis, the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the Sino-Indian War, the First Indo-China War, the Vietnam War, the Latvian Civil War, the Lebanese Civil War, the Rhodesian Bush War, the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, and the Indo-Pakistan Wars, the IRA border campaign, the Troubles, the Punjab insurgency, and the Syrian Civil War. Now, the Sten was mainly made to be an emergency cheap gun for the British Army during World War II, since the British were purchasing all of the Thompsons from the American Army, or the US Army, and they were getting kind of expensive to basically buy all these guns for all these soldiers, so they assigned Harold and Reginald to build a cheap gun that was basically similar to the Thompson but able to be produced very cheaply. And they certainly did that. They made the Sten, and the Sten was so poorly made that it was a gun that jammed a lot during gunfights, and it was very just not a good usable gun. It was very insufficient, and it wasn't the best gun to use, so the British just went back to using Thompsons, and they gave the Stens to the French Resistance Army to fight off Germany. Now for variants, the Sten has a lot of variants, and a lot of guns in the future take notes or take inspiration for the Sten's design, because the Sten's design was pretty interesting, and it was a really good design that basically helped make the gun perform great as a blowback operated submachine gun with an open bolt. Now about 3.7 to 4.6 million Stens were built. That's including all the variants as well, and obviously they were built from between 1941 to the 1960s, but there were a lot of Stens manufactured, and sadly not all of them survived all these years. There are still a little bit of them out there. That's pretty much it about the history for the Sten. Now let's talk about real life stats for it and compare them to the Call of Duty World War II stats to see if it's fairly accurate. Now first off, the weight of the Sten was about 7 pounds, somewhere around there in that range, 7 pounds, so it was a fairly hefty gun. It was, guess 7 pounds is actually pretty heavy for a gun around that time, or a submachine gun from around that time. Now the cartridge it shot was a 9x19mm parabellum, and the rate of fire ranged from 500 to 600 rounds per minute. And obviously the feed system was a 32 round detachable box magazine. There was no way it could have a detachable drum magazine. That's all inaccurate. Now let's take a look at the stats for the Call of Duty World War II Sten. Now for the magazine size, it ranges from a 32 round box magazine to a 48 round drum magazine, which is inaccurate. The Sten was never able to hold a drum magazine. Now for the rate of fire, it ranges from 638 rounds per minute to 679 with rapid fire. Now for the accuracy, the real life Sten was only able to shoot 500 to 600 rounds per minute, but that's kind of fairly accurate since it's around the range of 600. So I'll give it that. So the Call of Duty World War II Sten is fairly accurate to the real life Sten. That's pretty much it about this Sten. Now let's talk about what we've all been waiting for and what gun is the Royal Skull based off of in real life. And I'm kinda 80% on this. I think it's kinda accurate, but I know some of the stuff on the Royal Skull is probably like from different parts for the Sten that the Sten can have, but I'm fairly certain that the Sten Royal Skull Epic variant is based off of the Mark IV for the Sten in real life. And the only difference with the Sten Mark IV is that it had a standard pistol grip and a barrel shroud. It was also one of the few Sten variants to incorporate a flash hider onto the normal version of this gun. The trigger guard was manufactured to basically facilitate thick winter gloves so it could be used during the winter time, and it also had a retractable stock, and this gun was mainly made for paratroopers, but sadly this gun never saw service during World War II, which is when it was developed. But that's pretty much okay because a lot of the variants for the Sten are pretty much shrouded in history, and not a lot of them do exist today. And I'm not going to compare stats because I don't know anything about the Mark IV. It's so hard to find anything about this gun because this gun is basically, or some of the variants for the Sten is basically just, they're gone. They disappeared throughout time and nobody knows much about them anymore. So I'm not going to compare stats with the Royal Skull to the Call of Duty World War II Royal Skull to the real life one because there's no point because I can't find anything about it. But that is basically pretty much it for this video, guys. If you guys did like this, drop a like, it helps me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more music content uploaded Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And remember to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an upload. And also follow me on twitch.tv/DezNik45. I'm going to be streaming a lot of Battle Royale games on there. I'm not streaming a lot recently, but I do have my PC, which is a monster PC. If you guys want to see a setup, comment down below, or a setup video. I will show like a whole PC specs and whatnot for you guys so you guys can check out this amazing PC. But other than that, I'm going to be streaming a lot because of that PC, and I'm going to be mainly focusing a lot on my streaming than my YouTube, since my YouTube videos are basically planned and ready all the way till October when Black Ops 4 releases, so I'm good till then. So I'm going to be streaming a lot, so I really recommend checking that out. Also, I'll whip up cards to the series playlist right about now, and I'll put it in the description down below. The series playlist is called The History of the Variant series, and basically if you're wondering what is the real life predecessor of these Call of Duty World War II variants, then this series is for you. I go down through a lot of stuff for these variants, like it's basically like a documentary, and I try my best to give you guys some interesting history that you guys would love to hear, and some factual history as well, so you guys can know some of this stuff. But other than that, just a neat little series to know what these variants in Call of Duty World War II are based off of in real life, because most of the variants in Call of Duty World War II were real guns at a certain time. But if any of that interests you, then I highly recommend checking out the playlist after the video. But again, guys, that's basically pretty much it, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. And also comment down below what you found interesting about this video. Did you find it interesting that the Sten Mark IV is the Royal Skull, and that's a very rare variant for the Sten? Or did you also find it interesting that the Sten is basically based off of acronyms from the designers' names and EN for Enfield? Just anything I would love to hear in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in my next video, and peace.